Welcome to Rico 12. I'm Justin B., your host and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. Rico 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism, sharing tools, and offering hope from those walking a similar path. So, whether your thing is alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, food, whatever, you are home here. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn and support one another. Our speakers come from a variety of fellowships and experiences, demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. Rico 12 is not allied or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. A couple of days ago, here's a little announcement, information. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to share a talk that I called On God's Bucket List on the Keep Your Foot on the Gas Facebook Live podcast. So if you want to check that out, you can go to Facebook and look up Keep Your Foot on the Gas Live podcast. Follow that page and you can find my share on the reels. One more exciting announcement about what we're doing with Rico 12. David G., Nikki M., and I will be back together in a couple of weeks, resuming the Big Book Roundtable and picking up at Chapter 8, to Wives. There are already well over 100 episodes as we've gone through, line by line through the Big Book up through the end of Chapter 7, which is entitled Working with Others, and we will continue to release new episodes weekly until we finish the first 164 pages. We're excited to get that resumed again. All right, this is Rico 12 speaker meeting number 420. Thank you for joining us live or on the recording later. Today's speaker is Heather B., who spoke to us last about 5 years ago on meetings 17 and 48, and I'm super grateful and excited to have her back with us. You can find those or any of the other previous recordings on the Rico 12 podcast. And we are continuing our 12-week series on each of the 12 steps, and Heather will proceed with step 7 today, and I look forward to diving into this conversation here in a few minutes. But first, a few more items of business. Rico 12 does offer a variety of resources, including podcasts, social media communities. To explore more, visit Rico12.com. That's RECO12.com, and follow us and check things out and contribute. Be a voice in those places. Rico 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us continue this message. For information on how to do that, I will put information in the chat, in the show notes, and it's also at the website, Rico12.com/support. Thank you this week to Abigail and Sharon for your generous donations. Any support, both financially and by word of mouth, truly makes a difference in helping us share these messages of hope and recovery. All right, I'm going to introduce Heather now. She's going to bring her experience, and her experience will bring hope, meaning, worth, and growth to each of us as listeners. And here's a little bit about her. Heather has been in the rooms of recovery since 2006. She found the rooms because of a loved one's addiction. Heather entered the rooms thinking she could fix her loved one, but quickly realized that she needed the steps of recovery herself. She has found healing, hope, and a new life through the steps. Take it away, Heather. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Justin. So I'm really excited to be talking about step 7. This is one that I love, but I also realize I still working on a little bit. There was when I was reviewing it, there was a question that really stood out to me that I was like, ooh, that I still struggling with that. But when I came to step 7, I remember being ready for step 7, being like excited to hand over these things, but also unsure about it. Also not really like it kind of talks about what will I be? It says, will it leave a vacuum? Will it leave an emptiness? Will I not have a character anymore? And that I wasn't so much worried about that, but I wondered, what will I be? Who will I be? What will I be like if I do this? And anyway, I'm going to be looking at some of the phrases and words in the Essanon book, because that's what I use mostly for my recovery. And but one of the things that the word humility pops out over and over and over and over. and that's the case with any 12-step fellowship. I feel like when you look at their materials, it says humility, humility, humility. And I realized that's a huge part of step 7 is having that humility, being teachable, being willing to allow God to do his work and not take my power back. Because that's what I did most of my life. I realized I had not realized that, like I said, until I stepped into the rooms of recovery, thinking somehow I was going to fix my husband. But nope, instead it was for me. All these steps were for me. I needed them just as much, if not more. Sometimes I think. But anyway, I love the line where it says, nor did we see that spiritual needs have come to wait, let's see. I'm sorry. Nor did we see that spiritual needs have to come before any others. But when we had to choose between character and comfort, somehow comfort always won. And that is true. I got comfortable in my poor coping skills. I got comfortable with that. I got comfortable with control. I got comfortable with fear. And I used those things and it felt more comfortable than to necessarily surrender, give it to God, be humble, allow him to take that from me, allow him to use me in other ways. That's not comfortable. And I seek to be comfortable. I don't like change. Change causes discomfort. And I try to remind myself, like, this is good. If I'm if I'm in discomfort, that means I'm changing. I'm being stretched. I'm doing the hard things. And that was something that really is something I still, again, struggle with. I like comfort. The other day I was driving and I had this thought, that my life isn't really my life. It's God's and I'm to give it to him. And that doesn't mean comfort always. Yeah, my higher power wants me to stretch, wants me to get uncomfortable. There's humility in that. That's where some of the humility comes for me, is being uncomfortable. And I have to be humble to be uncomfortable. If I'm not humble, I'm going to be taking my will back and trying to be in control. And so, yeah. And then another line, this is on page 74, it says, only God can remove your obsession with the sexaholic, and only God can remove our defects of character. As we approach step 7, most of us learned to call upon God in times of great need. And that was true. I had learned surrender at this point. I had learned kind of what to trust in God, but it was realizing that only God could remove my obsession over my sexaholic, that God could only remove my fears, my weaknesses, because I have weaknesses too. I have poor coping skills as well. I recognize that. I see that. And so it was a powerful thing to realize that only God could do this. I couldn't do it. No self-help book was going to give me the magic formula to fix my addict like I thought, or to fix me and my reactions and how I'm doing these things. And so it was so important for me to recognize that part of surrender is step 7, is that humility to just allow God to take it and trust he's got it. He's going to fix it. It's going to happen. My higher power is going to take care of it. And so I love that reminder as well in step 7, and just being reminded of that. And then it says, one of the other highlighted points says, same page, we have learned we can accomplish more with a humble attitude than we can with than when we are prideful and fearful. And that is so true. Like, I have it bolded, because I was so stuck in fear and pride often that, and I when I started doing the steps, when I started working the steps, actually getting a sponsor, working those steps, doing the things, allowing the steps to change me, that is when I started to see changes, started to see, real traction. Stuff started happening. I was accomplishing more in my life. Today, I am in awe sometimes of the things I do. Old me would have been totally anxiety overwhelmed, stressed, like probably crying. I don't know. And now I look at the things that I put in my life because of being directed by my higher power, that I'm able to do those things in a day, and it's not stressful. Is it exhausting days? Yes. But do I ever feel like I can't do it? No. Like I know God's got me, and it's gonna happen. So um and so then humility works better not only when we are asking God for help, but also when we are dealing with the people in our lives. And that was an interesting phrase to me. Humility works better not only when we are asking God for help, but also when we are dealing with the people in our lives. So I can't just hide. I can't avoid. I can't isolate from people. And because, that's a big, living with an addict, I think it's really easy to be like, oh, well, it's them. It's their problem. It's their thing. I don't want to deal with them. But really, truly, I can't avoid that. That's, or anyone else, my coworkers. Now I realize my kids. In the beginning, it was my addict. Now it's everybody. I realize I need steps, and I need step 7 for everybody. I need that humility and that reminder that I could easily be the person sitting across from me that's struggling right now. I could easily be that person. I have made choices. I have done things. And by the grace of God, that could be me. That could be me. Or that's been me. And they just haven't been on the path that I've been on. And reminding myself of that and giving humility to that. And that was powerful. And as long as we place genuine reliance upon a higher power, our humility is at work. So humility comes with me placing them on my higher power. Yes, I have to interact with humans, and I have to, we're messy. I love to say that all the time. People are messy. Humans are messy. But it's that powerful reminder that if I'm putting God in my center, my higher power in my center, then I can have that humility. And that's where that humility is going to come. And it's that reliance on my higher power, which is hard. It's hard. Every day it's a choice, right? Every day choice. And it says step 7 requires faith. Power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that's one of the things I loved about the steps was coming to find God, because I was spiritual. I thought I was connected to a higher power. I thought I knew. And when I came into the rooms and I started to learn, I realized the God of my understanding was not correct. And I needed to relearn all of that. And so by the time I got to step 7, I had a whole new relationship. And it was so much easier to be like, yeah, there's this power greater than myself that can restore me to sanity. It can. Not me, not anything else, not, working harder, trying harder, praying harder, reading more, all the things. It's that. And so that was really powerful. And another thing it said, to develop a more hopeful perspective on life. In fact, it is most often painful. Most of us have spent much of our lives running from pain. And that was a powerful reminder to me too, because pain is something I run from. Pain is something, again, it's that comfort. It's that comfort. I want comfort. I want to feel comfortable. I don't want to feel anything but comfortable. And that pain, the hardness can be so uncomfortable. And I would run from that. I would run as fast as I could from that because it just is so hard. And it was recognizing I gotta sit in it with God. And he's going to teach me. One of my favorite Christian scriptures is beauty for ashes. God makes beauty from ashes. It's a beautiful thought that God, that my higher power can create mess, take mess and make it beautiful. Recently, I was studying a while back ago about creation, and someone made a comment that creation is always messy. It's never Like when you paint, when you do pottery, I'm not super crafty, so I'm not, but woodwork, any of those things, like when you do it, you make a mess. There's a mess involved. But in the end, there's this beautiful piece of work. And that's what I feel like God does. Like he takes my mess and he takes my efforts and while I'm trying, and then he just makes it beautiful. And I can look at it and I can go, yeah, because I didn't do it. He did it. And I got out of his way and let him make it beautiful. So that's a really good reminder. And it talks a little bit about that in step 10 on page 115 about pain and touch point of pain, that pain is part of this process. Anyway, I love that. Okay, this is something that may stand out to people or can relate to. I related to it a lot. Others of us believed, but were angry at God for not preventing sexaholism from invading our lives. Now, I bump up with this a lot with partners of addicts. Why didn't God tell me? Or why didn't he, the God of my understanding prevent this? Why did this not get prevented in my life? And there's that anger. And I remember having that anger. Like, why didn't I pick up on this? Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I, like, what? How was I dumb? It's like, and I was angry about that. But the thing about it is, that's not my higher power. Like, again, he can make beauty from ashes. He knew me being, and because I will tell you, I am a spiritual person. Again, I prayed a lot before I married my partner. And I felt like, I don't feel like God was like, oh, this is the one. I don't believe in that, but I believe he was saying this is a good choice because he knew the outcome. He knew that marrying this person, whatever happens in our marriage, regardless of if we're together or not together, was going to make me better. I was going to be created anew. And that right there, again, that beauty from ashes, knew I was going to be driven to these rooms, knew that I was going to be, going through this, and that was going to change me and make me different. Now, I'm not saying I needed to marry, a sexaholic to do that. I'm just saying I could have married. I have no doubts I probably would have married somebody else and it would have been the same result. Like there would have been pain. There would have been stuff that God was going to use to make me different, to change me. And yeah, it's just amazing. So, okay. And then we're running out of time where I'm at. Okay, I'm good. Um, so, um, so over on page 81 now in the same book, it says, middle of the page, it says, we come to view our higher power as a support and a guide in our ongoing spiritual awakening, a helper in our refining process. And I love that idea of a guide and a helper. And it makes me think of a story that I heard once where a man, so God, or at least for me, my higher power speaks to me in interesting ways. And so I related with this story because the higher power speaks to him in interesting ways. And so he was outside and he was cutting a currant bush. He was cutting it, and there was like sap starting to fall. He was cutting it way down and there was like sap dripping off. And in his mind, he thought, why is this currant bush crying? And he had this whole conversation with this currant bush. And it was like God was kind of presenting to him what like could be a conversation between God and a person. And so he was like the gardener. He was representing God of the higher, the higher power. And then the currant bush was him. And it was like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you cutting me down? Why is this happening? Like, why? All these whys. And, I'm the gardener. I know best. I promise. This is beauty for ashes can happen. This is going to be good for you. We can make this beautiful. And it oftentimes in my life, the same thing. I think, why is this happening right now? I'm doing all the things, yet there's this hard thing in my way still. And yeah, and it's just learning to sit in that painful place again and not being comfortable, but also trusting and hanging on to step 3 during those times. Anyway, and then part of the very end of that paragraph, it says, we are relieved of burdens of an overly self-reliant past and our unmanageable circumstances. And I relate so much to that. I was relieved of burdens of overly self-reliant. I was so self-reliant on myself. I was going to fix everything. I was going to fix my family. I was going to fix, I was going to fix everything. I can do it. It's on me. I'm going to do it. And it was unmanageable. It was completely unmanageable. My life was unmanageable. My kids, I look back and I realize it now. My kids it was messy. It was just messy. They were feeling it. They were seeing it. Especially my older kids. I always joke with them. They're the crusty pancake. They're the first. I had twins first. So they're the crusty pancakes. And I got better with the others because when I entered the rooms, I was pregnant with my youngest. So she got the less messy moms, the more crafted beauty for ashes. And so it was one of those things that, and I had to learn that. I know they see that. I know my twins see that, and I know they understand that now. And we have those conversations because they're adults and they have one of them has their own kids now and learning lots. But, it's just one of those things that it's like, oh, this is a process. This is something that I just didn't even realize at the time. But God opened my eyes. We are freed to learn better ways of thinking and acting. And that was so true. I was able to learn like new ways of coping, new ways of, I don't have to in this moment control this. I can let it go. I don't have to put my know-it-all hat on in this moment. And because I was very good at that, my know-it-all hat. I don't have to do that. I could take it off. I could just be and sit with somebody and let them just be in that moment. I didn't need to fix it. I didn't need to change it. I didn't need to. Even last night, it's so interesting. I was just talking with my daughter, and all I wanted to do was fix. She's trying to find a job, and she's not finding a job. And I've prayed over and over, please God, give her a win, give her a win for I feel like for a year now. I feel like it's been a while. Like, God, just give her a win, give her a win. And there's no wins coming. And last night I wanted to be like, did you call that old place you used to work? Maybe they'd take you. Like, I'm like in my brain trying to fix it. And I kept saying to myself, like, I got my filter now. Don't do it. Don't do it. You cannot fix this. You cannot fix. And so finally I just said, what can I do for you? What can I do to help you? And she wanted a hug. That was the first thing. So I gave her a hug. And I was like, well, that's easy. I could totally do that. And so I gave her a hug. And then I ended up sitting just talking with her because that's something when I'm uncomfortable, but I ended up sharing stuff that I was learning and kind of stuff I'd prepared for this. Like, it's hard. Life is hard. There's pain and there's things that get painful and uncomfortable and we don't know why always. And it's hanging on to what I already know about my higher power. And okay, so this is one thing I love too. At the very end of Essanon book, page 82, towards the end, right before the questions, says, we keep in mind that step 7 is not about begging, pleading, or groveling. Neither is it coming to our higher power with a wish list of exactly what we think we need. Rather, step 7 is a process of humbly acknowledging our ongoing need to rely on God. And it is. God's not or my higher power's not a vending machine. I don't get to just pick and him come out. I've heard that before, and I love that analogy because again, my brain works funny. And just thinking about it, yeah, I want a wish list of, God, could you make these things happen? Like with my daughter, I'm praying and I'm like, God, make this happen. Give her a win. It's not happening. And that's painful and that's uncomfortable. And I have to sit in that. And it's not about begging and pleading. I can't go to him being like, come on, God, let's make this happen for her. He knows the timing and I have to trust that. And I have to trust that he has it. It's so powerful. Step 7. And the last thing I wanted to just cover really quick is a question in the book. And this one stuck out to me because I was recently struggling with this one. As I have worked this step, have I kept a balanced view of myself, my character, understanding that I make mistakes and experiencing the mistakes of others is part of the human condition? Is it okay for me to make mistakes? And that is the hardest thing for me still. Like, I was traveling and I left my iPad in my suitcase. I was on a plane and I checked my bag and I was going to bring my iPad with me, and I totally left it in my suitcase. I was so mad at myself. I had downloaded, I was prepared because the flight there, I forgot to download. I had nothing. It was completely useless for me. But for the way home, I was ready. And then I forgot it. I was so mad at myself. I could not let it go. I just sat there and just became so overwhelmed with the sadness about how angry I was at myself. And then I realized there was some sadness lying underneath, that I was sad I was leaving. And I was sad that I was having to leave behind my family members that I was there visiting. And I realized that's where some of the anger was coming from. It wasn't so much that I was angry at myself, but I was angry that I couldn't be there anymore. But I also knew it was time to go home. Like, I recognized that too. And so it was like this, it's that battle, like it says, it's the balance, understanding the balanced view of myself and my character. And it's understanding that balance. And it was like, and then I could let it go. And then I was fine. And then I don't love flying. So I just closed my eyes and took deep breaths the rest of the time. So it was great. But so I really wanted the downloads so I could not have my mind on the flight. But yeah, I'm so grateful for step 7 in my life. The reminder of humility, because sometimes, because I've been in the room since 2006, sometimes people will come to me and act like I know everything, but I don't. And sometimes I like to think I've done this step. I've done the, I've heard this step before, or whatever. That's me, again, not being humble. I have as much to learn from the newcomer that walks in for the first time and remembering what that was like, what that felt like, how hard it was, how scary it was, how much courage it took to walk in that door. I can remember that, and I can feel that power for them and think, wow, they're so courageous, because it would have been so easy, like me or like others, to not go, just not do it. But yet they came through that door and they did it that first time. To the person who's been there for years and who've walked the battle and have, maybe lost the battle a few times, but is back and is continuing forward. To the person in the middle who's just kind of trying to, figure out where they are in their steps and what does step 4 look like? And how am I going to do this? And it's scary and all those things, like, we all bring stuff. And that's the great thing, is it's all about, again, I need people to be humble. I need that people interaction. And I think that's why step 12, it connects it to step 12. Like, I need to be serving my fellows so that I have those experiences as well. And remember, God has got me. And so, yeah, with that, I end. Thank you.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate it. That was powerful and helpful. And we've got a lot of questions that have come in, both anonymously and not anonymously. I'm going to get to some of those. To anybody else who has questions for Heather, please type them in the chat if you'd like to remain anonymous. In other words, if you don't want me to read your first name, just say anonymous, please, and I'll just read the question. And we'll get to a lot of these questions here. We may skip over a couple of them, but we're going to get through a lot. I've also written several here. We'll see where we get. So, Heather, first question that I've got here, this comes from an anonymous member of this meeting. I've just put it in the chat right at the bottom so you can read that too. But here, what are some of the ways that humility shows up for you through the very person you thought you were here for?
What are some of the ways that humility shows up for you through the very person you thought you were here for? So humility through my part. I'm not understanding.
Yeah, through your addicted partner. How does humility show up for you through your addicted partner?
Well, working with I'm guessing humility from me, not from him. Like, right? Is that what we're saying? Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not understanding the question.
Nope, no worries.
Hopefully I'm going to answer this right. But I definitely remind myself that, again, before the grace of God go I, could have easily been my partner. Sex addiction isn't genderized. It's not based on gender. I chose poor coping skills as well. I had my own poor coping skills. I chose other means like eating disorders, being on the phone all day, used to annoy people, watching TV all day, those kind of things. I numbed other ways that I found helpful. But that doesn't mean like I'm better, if that makes sense. Like, and so it's that humility of reminding myself that we're both messy people. We're both in that place and we just choose different coping skills. It doesn't make it easier. I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. My husband acted out today. Like there's still pain in all that, but it's being humble enough to realize, you know what? For the grace of God go I, and hopefully he's working his stuff. My partner didn't work his stuff for like 8 years. So, I've been in that place and then that's when I entered the rooms. And so I've been in that place too. And there's a lot of humility in that time for me, because there was a lot of times where I was angry, like, God, he doesn't think he's an addict. He's still doing stuff. This is making a mess. And so it was one of those things that I had to just go back to that humble place of, you're messy. I've got my things. I got to stay in my lane and do what I can. And hopefully God's got him. God's going to figure it out with him. And that, again, really hard to do. I know it's easy to say, but I've been in those places. And so I think for me, that was the biggest learning of humility. Now that my partner's in recovery, I still have those moments where I need to humble myself and remind myself I'm no better. We're equal, just different. We just have come with different messes. So hopefully that answered that question. So
yeah, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate you walking through that, Heather. All right, next question comes from Harvey. Harvey says, could you speak to how you incorporate step 7 into your daily life?
In my daily life, really, truly, it's that humility piece. Am I when I pray in the morning, and I usually pray in my car. That's my favorite place to pray and talk. And I just complete silence, especially to work. I got a nice commute. And I can pray, and I try, especially knowing I'm coming to work where I work and with the people I work with, and I try to have humility. Like I try to remind myself, again, I'm no better than anybody. Let's try and find the strengths in people around me. Not saying I'm perfect at this in any way, shape, or form, but I do pray it and I ask for it. And the other way, again, is I often, like when I'm hearing someone with a struggle, instead of judging that struggle, I often say, I'm so grateful that's not my struggle. Like if someone's got, a certain, they're doing, they get angry and traffic. They're super judgmental of everyone and everything, whatever. Like instead of judging them, because then that makes me just as, judgy as them, I try to go, you know what? I'm just grateful that's not my struggle. I'm so glad that's not my struggle. So glad I have my own weaknesses that and that keeps me humble. That keeps me in that place. And I try to flip that switch. Once the minute I'm judging or thinking, and I'm better than that person or this or that, then no, I'm grateful that's not my struggle. Because it could have been easily, or it was maybe at some point. So.
Oh, good. You mentioned prayer on the way to work and doing that. I've recently learned a new prayer, and I've actually spoke on this and shared on this a ton. But I want to ask you about this. And it's a prayer that I think goes along with steps 6 and 7, steps 10, pretty much anything in recovery. And the prayer goes like this: God, empty me, and I can say empty me of whatever. God, fill me with the thing, that the spiritual principle that counteracts the thing I'm asking to be emptied with, of God, use me, and then say, I'm yours. I'm out here to do this. How can you, what does that mean to you as I share that prayer with you? And how does this fit into your message maybe?
So I've reflected on the prayer because I've heard that prayer a lot recently, and I probably from you, but a lot. And I was thinking about it like in the way, again, step 7, if I'm humble, then God can use me. If I am humble enough to recognize that I am no better, that we are all children of a higher power, however you want to look at that, we're all part of this universe. We're all just trying to do our best. And reminding myself that if I'm in that place, then I'm going to be useful to the person across from me, because then I'm in that place and I'm meeting them where they are, and I'm willing to be open to hearing their experience, what they need, not trying to fix. Again, like with my daughter, not trying to fix, just there to support and help them feel connected and loved. And, I gave her some words of affirmation, of course, because I'm stinky at those. So I thought, oh, I should do that because I'm not good at that. It's like, I'm proud of you, which I am. I spoke truth. It was all truth. I meant every word, but that was God again, being like, hey, you should do this, okay, I will, so it's being able to remove those things and empty me of pride, empty me of judgment, and filling me with humility. And that's obviously not to be walked all over, and, humility is not being about not having boundaries. Okay. But it is also about being in that place where you're teachable, where you're moldable, where you allow others' experiences not to taint you or to taint your own or to make theirs less credible than your, that whole thing. So, yeah.
Okay. I want to sit there for just a minute. You mentioned, your know-it-all hat, and the other day with your daughter, and how you chose to sit there and just listen rather than put on the know-it-all hat and share. Man, how do you do that when you are pretty dang positive that what you share could be helpful to them in that moment? How do you sit back and just let it roll until it's done rolling? Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
I guess I'm not sure. It's possible. I mean, I just share what comes and then I leave it to them. Like, I guess I treat it much like a sponsee when I give sponsee stuff. It's like, this is what's coming to my mind. This is the things. And sometimes I'm like, wow, that's really good. I needed to hear it today. Like, I guess sometimes even when I'm sharing, even with my child, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like one of the things I told her to do was to do some service, and I was like, that's a really good idea. Like anytime I'm down, doing service always helps me. Like, those kind of things is like, it just, I don't know. Sometimes I try not to, I don't take credit, I guess. I just recognize it's not me because I tried it me and it's messy and it's not pretty. And when I do it myself and then, you know, it's, it's not, good. I don't know. I was listening to a book the other day by Greg Boyle. I don't know why this is coming to mind, but Gregory Boyle. I love his books. Tattoos on the Heart. It's like my ultimate favorite book. I've listened to it 2 times. I've read it twice. It's one of my favorites. And I listened to another book of his recently called Barking to the Choir. And this one's a little more focuses on positive. The Tattoos in the Heart is just all of it, messy and everything. But Barking to the Choir is a little more positive. It focuses a little more on the positive. But Gregory Boyle is in LA. He runs Homeboy Industries. He's a Jesuit priest who has been helping to reform gang members. And he said this one time, and he likes to take them with him to go speak if he can. He will take them with him because they've never flown on a plane or they've never been to these places. They've never had these experiences. And so he took them and flew some homies, as he calls them in his book, to Washington, D.C. And they went to the Holocaust Museum. And he let them just explore it on their own and walk around. And then when they met back together, they were just talking about, man, wow, I didn't, and they were having these whole conversations. Well, there's this older gentleman sitting, just reading a book. And this had to be a while ago because most of the people from the World War II generation are no longer with us. But he had a sign right there that said World War or Holocaust survivor. And they were like, what? And so one of the homies, he said, got brave and went over and talked to him. And he found out more about his story and he came back sharing and he was like, yeah, he lost pretty much all his family. He survived working in the work camps up until they were freed. And he and the homie was like, yeah, I was in jail once and like I've been in jail, and he was telling him about his little bit about his jail experience. And the Holocaust survivor kind of at him like, yeah, an American prison where you have a mattress and, you don't get beat every day and you don't, like kind of blew him off. And he said, he goes, no, man. He goes, yeah, you're right. And he goes, well, one day I remember getting beat so bad in the yard that I couldn't see for like 2 weeks. And they kicked me so hard, and he like told him about this horrible experience and that he ended up on the floor in his bunk because, and anyway, and the guy just kind of like looked at him and Gregory Boyle asked him, he goes, dude, are you trying to compare your experience to a Holocaust survivor? And he goes, no, man, I'm making connection. And that is exactly because he was just connecting. Yeah, I got beat up once too. Like it was horrible. Like it was just that moment of connection. He's like, no way, man. Like that guy, he went through way more. But I can understand that moment when he was sharing about being beat up in the concentration camps. Oh yeah, I got beat up once too, and it was just about connection. And I loved that. It was that humility moment of connection between the two that they could just kind of have that moment together. And again, I'm not really sure why that's coming to mind, but I think about that in just my daily interaction. And I don't have to connect to everyone. Like sometimes that's bad when you try to like reach, and I have a family member that will do this. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I got a family member, or I had this once, or what, and tries to one up. We used to talk about that too in our one up Hannah. Anyway, but sorry, we would like, there's those people. Don't want to be those people. But I'm just saying it's about connection and connecting with someone. And even if you can connect with that person in the moment, you don't have to say it. You don't have to be like, oh my God, but just being there with them. Anyway, I'm gonna stop.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. And I noticed the sign that's over behind your head there in the office, and I think it fits really well with this topic. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Talk to us about how that fits in with step 7 and your general topic that you've talked about today, and why is that an important thing to you to keep up right there in your room?
Well, I love that sign when I saw it. Hobby Lobby, shout out. Uh, and I saw it there and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. Like, life doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to have the white picket fence in the house because that's often what I think my life had to look like, or my childhood needed to be like, in order for me to, or my kids' childhood needed to be like, so that they could be better than me, kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be that perfect, or whatever society or culture views as a perfect. It can be beautiful. It can be messy and still beautiful. It can be rough and it can still be beautiful. Um, that perfection is just I mean, especially now with like AI and all the things, Instagram, or, all the things. You can make things look so perfect when really, and then comparing, that thief of joy, that comparison takes away from that. Yeah, my mess is my mess, and it's beautiful because it's my mess. Your mess is your mess, and it's beautiful because it's your mess. Like, it doesn't have to match mine. We can have beautiful messes together. So I love for my clients that come in to see that and read that and just be reminded of that. So, because I believe it.
Very cool. All right, a couple more questions, and we'll start wrapping this up. But this one comes in a couple of anonymous questions, and you mentioned that you were in recovery in the rooms for several years before your loved one started working their recovery, and I think these two questions fit into that a little bit. So I'd like to hear your take on it, and it's in the chat there. How do you choose the us of your relationship together when it gets tough? And how do you reach for each other and practice that in those tough moments?
Oh. um, when it gets tough, I reach to God. I reach to my higher power. Um, and I just, I ask, I ask for eyes to see what my higher power sees in my partner. I ask for my heart to be open to loving my partner where they are. I ask for words to speak. Um, I ask for patience, um, humility. Again, back to step 7. Um, and then hopefully I get to that humble place and I will reach out to my partner again. And sometimes, sometimes we're in different boats. Like, well, we are in different boats, but sometimes, it's he thinks everything's great. And I'm over here going, dude, it's not great. What are you talking about? I haven't talked to you. I haven't connected with you. Like, there's these, we just see things so differently at times. And then other times, like, I think it's great. And then he's like, I'm messy over here. Like, how do you think things are great? And I'm like, oh, sorry. And so sometimes there's not even an awareness. And that's the hardest part for me, is being humble enough to talk to my partner to say, I'm in a rough place. And that takes a lot of humility. That takes a lot of step 7 for me to say, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm feeling. And not, I statements. This is me, because he may be fine. And it's great, which is great. But, maybe he's not aware. There's blind spots, we all have them. The other day I was in a car. I was with some people anyway. And one of the women was on the phone talking to her partner. And the discussion was very, very dysfunctional, like way, and there was like a bunch of other women in the car. And the woman in the back, she goes, I don't mean any disrespect, but that conversation sounded way, way dysfunctional. But the irony of it is I know her relationship with the partner she has right now, and hers is way dysfunctional as well. But it's always easier to see, again, the other person's stuff. Like it's always, I don't know. And that was such an eye opener for me. Like I got kicked in the head. Like it was like, that's right. It's so easy for you to see your partner doing X, Y, Z. What about you? It's like, what boundaries, what things can I work on? And so it was just interesting. It was such an eye opener and such a kick in the head to me, because I was like, they're both, she's right. They're right. We all have messy relationships. So it's figuring out what stay in my lane. What can I do to change that? So anyway, that's how I do it.
Yeah, thank you. Heather, you mentioned a couple of times in this talk and in this conversation the concept of surrender. And for a lot of people, that's such a foreign concept and so hard, especially for newer people in the rooms. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what surrender means to you, what that process looks like to you, and how you go through that?
So in the beginning, surrender for me was actually taking a piece of paper. I had a God box. That's what I called it. My sponsor. Attribute all this to my sponsor. I would write on my piece of paper, my husband's driving me crazy, or my husband acted out. Then I would fold up and I would stick it in that box. And I would leave it in that box. And if it came back to my mind, I'd write it on the piece of paper and I'd stick it back in the box. and that was my way. For me, I had to have that. That had to be part of my surrender in the beginning, to practice. And because I'm a visual. And then now, I often picture an altar. Altars are part of lots of people's worship. And I picture an altar now, and I will pin it to the altar and I will leave it there and I will walk away. And if it comes back up again, I say to myself, no, remember, you pinned it. And if I have to, I walk back and I do it again. I don't have to physically do that anymore. And then I would empty my God box. I remember emptying it. It was always, like I'd hide it way deep down in the trash. So surrender. But, and then I would fill it up again, and I kept doing that. And now, like I said, that's what I do. Now, of course, it's great if that doesn't work for me, then I got to talk to somebody else. I got to reach out. I got to text my sponsor. I got to call my sponsor. I got to send a Marco Polo to my sponsor, whatever it is, or someone in group, and talk it out loud. And then there's more power in that when I do that surrender too. I notice that if I'm not letting it go and I'm still obsessing and I'm trying, it's because I need to get it outside of me. And so that's an important piece for me too, is getting it outside. And maybe even writing, journal writing, typing, there's power in that, just whatever. I just feel like you have to find what works for you. Those are the things that really worked for me, especially in the beginning. So, but it is such a foreign thing. When people told me surrender, I was like, surrender? What? I don't get that. What does that look like?
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, very good. And write something on that white flag, right?
Yeah, I give up. That's kind of what I view, but that's not at all. So it's not giving up.
We've got a question that came in from Tress, from our live audience. Tress asks, what does the spiritual malady mean to you? What does it mean to have a spiritual malady or a spiritual illness? What does that look like to you? Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead.
that can be feeling like God's not there or the higher power's not there to me. And sometimes that's fear blocking me. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes, again, it's those blind spots because I have learned that God is always there, that my higher power is always there. Once I remember this still, I was going to the grocery store. I was having a rough time. I think my partner had either relapsed. I don't know. There was not good stuff there. Life was just hard. It was just all bleh. And I was driving to the grocery store. I remember my hair was in a messy bun. I just threw clothes on. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk about isolation to the full extent, like go into the store, get to the grocery store, do my shopping, and I'm in line and I'm putting my stuff up. But on the way there, I was praying. And I was like, God, where are you? Where are you? I swear you're not here. Like, I don't understand. I am trying. What is going on? Like, I had the angry prayer, the angry prayer. And, I got to the store. Anyway, I was in line. I'm putting my stuff up there. Ladies doing their little beep, beep, check me out thing. And this little girl walks up with her mom and they come up behind me and they start loading their stuff on the conveyor belt. And this little girl walks right up to me and she looks at me and she says, "You are so beautiful." And I was like, what? And even her mom was kind of like, "Honey, who are you talking? Come here, baby. Get away from the strange woman." And I just had to pay. I had to quickly get out of there. I loaded up my cart. I left and I just cried in the car because I knew in that moment that was God. That was God telling me, I am still here. I am still here. I have not gone anywhere. And sometimes I'm just blind to it. I just think because I'm in that discomfort, I'm in that pain. Again, step 7, all I'm talking about, that he's not there because that vending machine, that wish list, those things aren't coming. He's not there, but he is. My higher power is there and he's working, and there's no doubt about it. And I cannot forget that. And those kind of experiences, these are experiences I've written down so I can remember them. So I can go back to that when I'm in those angry prayers again and be like, nope, there was that one time. I know God's still here. I just got to look for it. I got to see it. Help me see it, God. Give me the eyes to see, ears to hear, words to speak. Help me know. So it's one of those things that sometimes that's the spiritual malady, that I'm just not seeing it, or I'm just not humble enough, and I don't like the answers, which is okay. It's okay to be in that place too. Like, I've been there, been in those places where I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. No, I'm taking it back. I'm doing this. I don't need you. I got this, and then, yeah, I come back. So it's, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Before we wrap up, Heather, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us?
Just, if you're on step 7 or you're not on step 7 or you're in the middle of steps or just starting or whatever, just know, your higher power has you. You're going to find what you need for healing. The steps have saved me. They've saved my marriage. I mean, really, truly, God saved my marriage. The steps saved my marriage because that's where God is at. Saved my relationship with my children. It's made me a better coworker, maybe a better daughter, made me a better friend. Actually, those people I used to call all the time and just sit and talk to, and and they'd have to make up stuff to get off the phone, and wouldn't answer their phones because I was just so needy. But now, I'm not that way, and we have good friendships and connection and connection with my God, with my higher power. That is the thing. That is the thing that has brought me my most peace in the steps, is coming to know a higher power and coming to connect and knowing I can rely on that and that he's got me. And that's what the steps have taught me more than anything. And I think that has helped me and saved me in more ways than I can ever count. So, and I beyond grateful. And I this is why I share this, because not to say I'm so great and look at me, but to say my higher power is great, and my higher power is there. And there's a higher power for all of us that is there and cares. And that's why I share what I share, because I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're alone and that there's no hope, but there is hope every day, a new beginning every day. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather. What a powerful share on step 7 on humility and on your higher power. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that. Really appreciate it. If we missed your question out there in the live audience, or if you have other questions, please consider joining our WhatsApp group. Post those questions in there. Let's have the community gather around and answer it with our experience, strength, and hope. If you out there in the listening audience, if you haven't rated and reviewed the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please consider doing it. It's a powerful way to get the message out there to more people and share recovery with others. Heather's message needs to be shared. Let's get it out there. Come back next week as we continue our 12-week series on the 12 steps with step 8. Robert P., the recovery guy who has done a lot of projects with us and episodes with Rico 12. He'll be our speaker, and he always brings the energy and the message. So come join us next week. Now, Heather's going to launch us out of here with an American Indian Lakota prayer. Go ahead, Heather.
Oh, great spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength, not to be just superior to my brother and sister, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when my life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit will come to you without shame. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Heather. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, and when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching